Hello everyone, welcome back to Brook in the Air. And, well, first gotta apologize for my makeup and everything else that may be melting off later in the show. It's very hot here. So, I'm going to manage that. But first of all, and primarily while you're all here, we're going to go over the 737 MAX. Now, I'm going to go over the 737 originally just very briefly. Basically, if you've been on any flight in the last, 10 to 12 years, you've been on a 737 domestically. It doesn't matter what country you're in, what country you're from, although it might. They might have gone like an Airbus A220 or an Airbus A320, but generally speaking, most localized airlines will have you take the 737. Now, originally, the 737 100 and 200 are not flown anymore. They're only flown, I think, in emergency circumstances in the far north because of its acclimatization to the cold weather. Don't ask me how they keep this flying. There are better channels on YouTube that go over that in more detail. But basically, this right here is the original 737, the 100/200. Now, I put a slash in between 1 and 200 because realistically there's no functional difference. I think the only difference between the 737 100 and 200 varieties is the fact that the 200 carries a few more passengers. Where again, the real differences are the 300 and 400 varieties. The 300 and 400 varieties carry a bit more passengers, but the 400 version is stretched and actually looks like a proper airplane, not this like bus sort of thing with jet engines. The original 737 mounts two Pratt & Whitney GT8D low bypass turbofans. These were relatively inefficient, fuel inefficient, time inefficient, and power inefficient engines, but they were judged for the time to be relatively compatible with typical airplanes of the day. It was designed to supplement the Boeing 707 for, the 727 for short to medium haul flights. Mostly short haul. A few medium haul, that was what it is. Generally speaking, the 737 started to evolve over time. This is what we're going to cover today, the MAX, and this is the MAX 9 variant. The cockpit's a little chopped off there. That's my mistake. But you'll notice the chevron engines, very, very high end. Pratt & Whitney G47B high bypass turbofans. So complete engine revolution. The fan, or the tail fin, is much more aerodynamic. This can seat upwards of 187 passengers. A comfortable, semi-comfortable two-class configuration, although some airlines have opted for three classes. You'll notice the winglets here. Airbus calls them shortlets, but no matter what you call them, they're the same thing. They're supposed to improve the aerodynamics of the wing and thereby improve engine efficiency.
We have a close-up later on in our pictures, don't we?
I think so, yes. They're all designed for the same thing. And you can't really see here, but the MAX has a more dual dynamic shark winglet device. One pointing or angling down, one angling upwards. Southwest Airlines actually makes a very good point of illustrating how well they upkeep the 737s. Now, the 737 MAX has a very, very interesting history. It was designed to compete with the Airbus A320neo. Now, we'll go in more in depth in that next week. But suffice it to say, the European airlines, which make up some 68% of the global airline market share, vastly prefer the Airbus A320neo. And the Airbus A320 before that. Now,
Besides the fact that it's French-made instead of American.
that has a very small amount to do with this. Yes, it's comparatively local, but it's also more reliable. It's had no hull losses, it's had no loss of life, and it's actually one of the safest airplanes in the sky. And actually, the current A320 is the original A320 is known as the A320ceo, or current engine option, as opposed to neo, which is dualistic, standing for new engine option, and neo for Latin as in new. But the 737 MAX was designed to compete with that, and it's had a, shall we say, a mixed history at best. As soon as the tech person figures out how to, there we go.
Hit the wrong button.
Story of your life. Now the 737 MAX is typically powered by the CFM LEAP 1B engines and the JF 47B high bypass. Both are high bypass turbofans, but typically the launch engine was the CFM 1B LEAP turbofans. You can see the LEAP on the side here with the chevron engines. Now the purpose of the chevron engines is to again improve aerodynamic ability and reduce drag.
With the side effect of scooping water when they crash.
Yeah. You can also see the dual winglets, again designed to improve aerodynamic performance and reduce drag, and improve fuel efficiency. There you go. Now, the pylons were improved as well. They're strengthened with a carbon fiber, not unlike what happened to the Titan submersible.
No, that was entirely made of carbon fiber because it. Oh, didn't they actually buy the carbon fiber from Boeing?
No, because Boeing made carbon fiber, but they bought it third hand.
Oh, they bought it from a Boeing recycler, wasn't it?
Yes.
But that's a whole nother story. That's another episode.
So, high bypass turbofans essentially mean that it's supposed to travel faster on lower amounts of fuel. This is obviously the 737-7 version of MAX, designed to replace, well, supplant for now, eventually replace fully the 737-700. Like the 737 MAX 8 and MAX 9 are designed to replace the 737-800 and 900, all of which are in the 737NG, or next generation.
And how old are the ones they're replacing?
Depends on the airline. Between...
The plane itself.
Oh, the MAX is not that old.
No, the original.
Oh, the original? Came out in 1968.
So, basically this is an upgrade from 1968 technologies that was done roughly about, 5-10 years ago?
Yeah, it was designed to come out in 2018, and it was pushed back due to the pandemic and numerous commercial issues to 2022, and just as the market.
Yes, people. Remember, supply chain management is kind of important in plane manufacturing.
Basically, to understand how airlines work, it's a game of mergers and acquisitions. And if you don't have the proper supply chain management, you cannot conduct the proper merger and acquisition later on.
Cough, cough, African Airlines.
South African. Or, yeah, pretty much all African airlines.
Yeah.
From Ethiopian to Egypt Air, to Zimbabwe, to Air Peace, for instance. Oh my god.
Like, if you watch Aircraft Disasters, of which there is a show, look for it, you will see that many problems came from either pilot error or supply chain problems.
Oh yeah.
Because spare parts.
95% of world aircraft accidents happen to occur in general to pilot error. And poor crew resource management. CRM, or crew resource management, is very, very important. We created that for a reason.
Which we can talk more about that when we get to the cockpit picture.
Yeah. Next.
Speaking of, yes, Delta.
Delta was one of the launch customers for the 737NG, or next generation.
This only has a single winglet.
Yes, because they had not come up with the design of the dual winglets yet.
That's how we know it's an earlier.
Well, that and the lack of chevrons on the engine. This was the 737-700. So it has already gone away with the stubby bus-like design of the original 737. It is trying to go for more of a sleek aerodynamic look, which helps reduce drag and increase performance overall.
And this was a narrow, right?
Yes, 737 is typically a short to medium range at most. It is always a narrow body, single seat airliner.
And because of that, it uses less fuel than the wide bodies, or as some people call them, fat boys.
Oh, I haven't heard anyone call them fat boys, but yeah.
Next one. It's apparently going to make me click on it.
So this is the front fuselage of the 737 MAX mock-up. It looks bigger than it really is. It's really not that of a big plane. It requires a crew of 2, pilot, co-pilot. They've done away with all exterior extra positions. The flight engineer position has been done away with completely. And the MAX introduced new 5-hour controls. New for Boeing. Airbus had already completed this with their initial A320, signed in 1974.
So basically, think of Boeing as the iPhone, whereas Airbus is the Android phone.
Pretty much, yeah. And Boeing is desperately trying to catch up.
Well, that's because they have too many fingers and too many pies. But that's not the point.
So this is a close-up of the CFM International LEAP 1B engine. The launch engine initially selected for the 737 MAX. The high bypass turbofan. You can't see it, but the fan blades are made of titanium alloy. And here it is fitted onto the underside with the combination of carbon fiber and titanium alloy pylon.
All hail underslung. Next one.
Yeah. And the inside of the Boeing demonstration mock-up model has the MAX etched onto the exterior of the winglets.
Yeah, it's a dual winglet shown from the back, isn't it? Because you can see into the cockpit.
Well, it's showing from the exterior, with the passengers can see the walk up. But it's easier when we get to the cockpit photo. So these were the no, at least two 737 next gens and one MAX back here, all belonging to United Airlines. United was the actual launch customer, but United grounded all of their 737 MAXs when the MCAS scandal broke.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
Now that we're here, let's talk about the MCAS.
Yes. So we have a lot to cover here. You notice the feathered seats for the pilots.
Was this a glass cockpit or not yet?
Not yet. This is right before the renovation. This is the original 737 cockpit, but you'll notice a lack of analog controls. They still have the sensor control column, so they have not gone to the complete glass cockpit yet. The 737 MAXs have complete glass cockpits. Now, contrast that with the Airbus A320's complete glass cockpit and side stick.
Yeah, because the Airbuses are using joysticks and side throttle, right?
Just side sticks.
And these are old enough that they have the clipboards for the center of the joystick.
Yeah, this was a 737 original that had been taken in for upgrades.
And we still have the flight computers. That's caused a lot of problems from where they are, right?
Well, sort of, but the introduction of the MCAS with the MAX Now, MCAS is an acronym standing for Maneuvering Characteristic Augmentation System. The MCAS was put into a 737 by Boeing engineers in order to have the MAX mimic the maneuvering effects of next generation, because it was a bigger aircraft, MAX was, so they couldn't maneuver that as well as they could maneuver the next gen. So the MCAS was supposed to force the aircraft to mimic the maneuvering characteristics of the next gen.
So it was basically taking a destroyer and trying to mimic a PT boat.
Destroyer mimicking a frigate. And this, in the context of this analogy, the PT boats are akin to a Cessna.
So, what went wrong?
So basically, when coming in for a landing or just after takeoff, MCAS would think that the aircraft was doing something it's not supposed to be doing, erroneously, and the MCAS would take over, ignoring all pilot inputs, and force the plane into a sort of what the aircraft would interpret as a stall.
So, let me see if I understand this correctly. At the time when you need the most control, it's going to force it into a stall.
Correct. Because just after takeoff and prior to landing, the aircraft's computer, governed by MCAS, thought that the aircraft was doing something it wasn't supposed to be doing. And so if you look at the two crashes, Lion Air Flight 602 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight... I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but anyway, Ethiopian Lion Air, Indonesian and African, their accidents happened just after takeoff, and I think in the case of the Lion Air crash, it was just before landing.
And will you have links to these down below?
Everything is just Everything is just below. Is links below.
So, how many people died in all this?
A total of about 380 people.
And why wasn't it fixed coming out of the gate? This seems like something that should have been tested, right?
Well, it was tested. Boeing thoroughly knew about it.
Wait. They knew about it and they still put it out?
Boeing knew about it and still put it out, and they bribed the FAA to certify the 737 complete line.
Why are they still in existence?
After $50 billion in recompense fines, they shouldn't be, but they are.
Oh, right, because since they're jack of all trades,
Because Boeing is also the second largest defense contractor.
Corruption at work, people. Isn't it a wonderful thing?
Think about it. Boeing bought out McDonnell Douglas, and biggest contractor for the F-15, F-16, and second biggest the F-35 is Boeing.
And it's pretty much the only American aircraft manufacturer for commercial airlines that we have on a large scale.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Embraer is Brazilian, and they only make small aircraft. Bombardier is owned by Mitsubishi now, and they're based in Canada.
And again, smaller aircraft.
And Airbus is based in Europe, in France.
And we don't want those dirty Europeans doing stuff that we as Americans can do.
Oh yeah. And Airbus is by far Boeing's biggest competitor, and only competitor, really.
So, wait. Sorry for interrupting again. So we basically have a monopoly right now that is allowed.
Absolutely.
So why do they complain about other monopolies?
Because it's America. They have to have something to complain about.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a Chinese company, Comac, which supplies aircraft to the Russians and Chinese, but they aren't considered a threat.
Because they're not big enough, they started recently.
Right, and it will be at least 15 years before they can even get their aircraft to any even remotely, minutely restrictable number. I mean, their aircraft can't even challenge anything but maybe a 737 in small markets. So this is a 737 next gen. It looks like it has double winglets here. It does not. This is just after takeoff from actually Denver International Airport.
In the winter, obviously.
Yes. And you can tell the hump here. If you ever wonder what hump is on a live aircraft, that's the Wi-Fi router.
Yes, there is these satellites in there that connect sometimes to Starlink, sometimes to other things. So your happy little self can have the internet Wi-Fi that you pay for.
I mean, you don't pay a lot. I mean, it's pretty reasonable. If you're a club member or an alliance member or any type of member with miles put into it, then you're paying like between 10 and 15 bucks. 5 and 15 at the minimum for a flight of Wi-Fi for a day. It's really not worth complaining about.
Yeah. But it's also that hump because it's got to be protected from, say, for instance, lightning strikes.
Have you known any sufficient civilian electronics stored to 38,000 feet? That's why.
Yeah.
Because this is also insulated and thermally insulated and insulated against cold for all weather. So here we have a great photo of Boeing's Renton factory in Renton, Washington, where they're currently assembling a 737. Now compare this with Airbus's main factory in Toulouse, France. And it's much more organized over there. It's still chaos, just like this, but it's much more organized. Now again, the 737 MAX was designed to compete with the Airbus A320neo. Because Boeing saw the 320 coming out and said, okay, well, we're not going to worry too much. Then Airbus started upgrading their A320 to the A320neo, and Boeing said, oh,
Yep. They started freaking out because they were going to lose market share.
And they're still losing market share because 737 MAX has maybe 15% market share compatibility with the Airbus A320neo.
And Boeing pushing out things just like when EA pushes out games when they're not supposed to. Problems happen. Mass Effect Andromeda, anybody?
Well, that's one of the reasons why the MCAS existed on 737 MAX. So they could cut corners, and they could be sufficient in trying to augment the neutering to mimic the 737 Next Gen. And they could put out the 737 sooner rather than doing proper testing.
Hey, we should ask Stockton Rush about doing proper testing. Oh,
we
wait.
Can't. He's dead.
Yeah.
So basically, this is a great platform view of Air China 737 MAX. No, I'm sorry, this is the 737 Next Gen. But it does share a lot of contrasting similarities to the 737 MAX. The MAX has internal wheel wells. In other words, coverings that cover the wheels. This is an older livery for Air China. Pretty straightforward, really. It still uses the old style turbofans. New compared to the original.
It's also because China's one of the last people usually to get the upgrades because the MAX kind of came out during, well, we're going to hurt China.
Yeah.
So it became kind of difficult for them to do upgrades.
Like I said, MAX was originally supposed to come out in 2017, 2018, but didn't hit the shelves in mass market, so to speak, until 2021. And it has still undersold the Airbus massively. I think Airbus orders are so backed up. They have so much, it's so popular for the A320. The 737 has sold me 15%. Mostly U.S. carriers. So Hapag-Lloyd Airlines is no longer around anymore. They were a German airline. They have been subsumed and taken over by Eurowing, which is owned by Lufthansa Group.
Why don't we just say that basically if anything's German, it's pretty much owned by Lufthansa?
Pretty much. Let's see. Yeah, if you look on the front there, it says 737. I think this is the 300 variety. But it's essentially upgraded, so we can safely assume it's around probably the 700. Has the winglets on the side, so you can tell it's the next generation. Although this has no Wi-Fi capability because it has no hump.
Well, it's a short haul, isn't it?
Yes.
So a lot of places did seem like didn't see much of a reason to give people Wi-Fi included if it was supposed to be short hauls of like an hour, 2 hours, right?
Pretty much. I mean, only airlines you'll find Wi-Fi on for short-haul flights are luxury, business, or leisure airlines.
Yeah, and usually they would store that stuff in a different area because it. Oh wait, that's the other part of the wing.
And that little
Yeah, it's the other
vertical
part of the
wing,
isn't it?
no, that little vertical wing is connected to the electronic communication system for the cockpit.
Mm.
So this is actually, ironically enough, a Lion Air 737 MAX akin to the one that crashed. Not the one that crashed, but it has partial Boeing livery and partial Lion Air livery.
Interesting. They've gotten rid of the hump and actually spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, well, this is a practice airline, or test airline, so it doesn't have Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Because they figure we don't need Wi-Fi if we're just having engineers on board.
Yep.
So, you can see if there are Chevron engines under here, and there are winglets come down here. Overall, it's actually kind of a beautiful plane. It's a shame Boeing rushed it so much.
And then we have one of America's favorites.
Southwest Air, and this is a next generation, not a MAX, but again, good for comparison. And you can see the Allegiant Airlines 737 in the background.
This is probably at Love Field, isn't it?
Yes. This is their home base at Love Field, Dallas. Rated one of the U.S.'s best airports. Although you kind of have to be the best airport in Dallas with all the problems they have.
Yeah, it's considered like, seriously, it's compared to Dallas where you have plenty of room and plenty of space to
Yeah.
spread out.
I'll do a review of airports in one of the future episodes, but for now, know that Dallas Love Field is one of the U.S.'s best and biggest airports. Although for the U.S., being the best airport isn't really saying much.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's also Southwest's home base and, well, home, for instance, and major hub. Now, Southwest doesn't really have hubs per se, as most airlines do, but they do have their home base, and they have a focus city, or many focus cities. Philadelphia, LA, San Diego, San Francisco, Chicago, and Pittsburgh, I believe. And Denver. Can't forget Denver.
Yeah.
Can't ever forget Denver. But you'll see how low this is to the ground. They actually had to heighten this to max, because Max is bigger engines.
And they did that by jacking out the shocks and struts, didn't they?
Yeah, they actually had to revamp the entire undercarriage of the airplane.
Yeah, because they had to improve the size of where the wheels were going. As promised, the winglet.
Yes, this is actually an Airbus winglet, but they're functionally the same. Airbus calls their winglets shortlets, but regardless what you want to call them, they're the same damn thing. They have the same function, the same ideology, the same feasibility, the same aerodynamic properties. This one actually belongs to United. No. This belongs to Aegean Air, which uses exclusively Airbus aircraft. Aegean Air is also a member of the Star Alliance, fun fact, and United's partner overseas.
Which we'll get into the alliances in a later video. And for any of these, if you want videos to happen sooner, seriously, request. She'll probably put out polls on the website.
And if you want to really sooner, subscribe to my Patreon.
Yep. Speaking of Airbuses,
this is one we're doing next week. This is the Airbus A320neo. This is their LEAP engines, their CFM LEAP 1D. Same type of engine as the 737 MAX, but different sub-variant. There's actually a very little difference superficially between the A320neo and the 737 MAX. But the differences that are there are substantial. For instance, the A320 has no Chevron engines. The A320 has internal Wi-Fi, which doesn't really affect flight performance, but it does affect flight comfort for passengers. The A320 has fly-by-wire controls and a built-in HUD display. Now, the 737 MAX has built-in HUD as well, but it's more integrated on the A320. I am by no means advocating Airbus over Boeing, but I'm advocating Airbus over Boeing.
You're basically giving an honest assessment.
I am, with a slight bias.
Well, you're telling us how the two are different and
Pretty
being
much.
blunt about it.
Yes. And this is the test variant of the Neo, hence the Airbus livery, flying from Toulouse, France, over to farther into the south of France. Now this is side-by-side comparison. This is the 737 Next Gen versus the A320.
How close are they, though? They look like they're about to crash.
No, they're actually coming into land at the same airport, different runways. This actually happens all the time at one of our favorite airports, SFO.
Yeah, so they're two runways that are right next to each other.
Yeah, they're parallel runways. At San Francisco International, for instance, this happens all the time. Two airplanes come in at the same time, and it's almost like a little race to see which one can make their first. But overall, there's like a half mile to a mile between them.
Another important thing to make sure is if you guys ever want to listen to how crazy ATC gets when all this stuff is happening, there are plenty of recordings and videos.
And there's also apps for your phone, both on Google Play Store and Apple Store. Some are free, some require you to purchase, but overall it's like a $4 or $5 purchase overall.
Yeah.
So
One-time purchase.
Yeah.
It's not like a monthly thing. You've got enough of those already.
yeah. So this is an Air France A320. No, this is an A320 Neo. One of the newer ones in service. It debuted in 2017.
Are you sure it has no wing? It has no winglets or sharklets.
Yeah, this might be the original. Yeah, it's definitely the original Neo, or not the Neo, but the A320. Notice the European Union symbol on the tail, the SkyTeam Lion symbol right there.
Oh, and it's even got the little pokey bits up at the top. They've got one near the front of the cockpit.
Yes, everyone keep in mind that the official technical term now is Pokebits.
A little shark fin.
So this is the communications antenna linked to the cockpit, and this is the communications cockpit also linked to the cockpit as an auxiliary.
And also does the Wi-Fi.
And no, on the Airbus aircraft, the Wi-Fi is linked internally.
Well, right, but I'm talking about that's where the antenna comes up.
I get what you're saying, and no, you're wrong. Although, if I happen to be incorrect, please correct me in the comments.
Yeah. Seriously, comments, suggestions, all that stuff. We know we don't have videos of this stuff. There's a reason for that. It is very difficult to find videos unless you have lots of free time. And we have
And
these
non-copyright
jobs.
protection.
Yeah.
Copyright protection is a thing. And until I get paid for this, I can't obtain non-copyrighted videos easily.
So please like, subscribe, and all those shenanigans.
Feel free to subscribe to my Patreon if you like.
Yeah. Of which you can actually, if you subscribe to her Patreon, you get to see her vacation videos. So it's like you can come along with us. Which, don't you have something happening with that when a certain amount of people subscribe?
Yes. So I was going to do a 250 subscriber special, but I can't due to YouTube's insane monetization policy.
That they keep changing.
Yeah. Because it used to be 100 and 250, now it's 500. But regardless, I only need 350 more subscribers. At that point, I will enter my followers into a contest, and one lucky traveler will win a trip with me on a 5-star airline per Skytrax. Some call it Skimtrax. I don't subscribe to that. And that will be a 2 to 3, maybe 4 night stay in a luxury 5-star hotel. and a trip in a 5-star airline to and back. But in order for that to happen, I need to reach 500 subscribers total.
And, I mean, we will potentially be showing some of the videos of airports when you do your airport special, right?
Oh, yeah.
That we took ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been to several airports, but I can't show those videos yet.
They were taken by us. We can't? Oh, yeah. But yeah, so, seriously, suggestions for this? Follow her on Patreon.
Now, as an ending note, I will say the MCAS issue has been resolved.
Just like everything else after enough blood is spilled.
After enough blood is spilled and money has been shelled out, MCAS has been revamped to the point where they believe they have it safeguarded. They didn't take it out of the planes, but they have modified it to an extent that it no longer resembles what it once did. And it actually has a lot of fail-safes to it. And overall, the 6-shaker has been queued to either deactivate or activate depending on what condition the aircraft is in. But this isn't really doing any favors because it's still underselling the Airbus A320 by a factor of at least 10.
Well, that's another thing we can go through if anybody's interested. If you want it to be moved to the front of the line, we can go through the different problems that these aircraft have had in an entire list. Like, we know that Airbus has had some problems, but Boeing has also had quite a lot, and we can go through the entire history.
Oh, Airbus is at least 4 years younger than Boeing, but Airbus has had only a few minor problems by comparison. Boeing has had a huge host of problems, especially recently. Boeing is right now over $20 billion in debt. And the only thing keeping them afloat is the U.S. federal government.
So yes, your tax dollars at work to save a company. It's just like a bank bailout.
Pretty much. Pretty much you can. Okay, everyone. That's all I have for you so far today. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the air.